Papa Kenn Media.
Hello everyone, I'm Papa Kenn and welcome to a brand new Papa Kenn Reviews. Today the movie I'm going to be reviewing, as you can tell, is Big Hero 6.
We jumped out a window.
What was that?
We jumped out a window.
Now, I really am struggling to not give anything away for this movie, so let's get right into it with the good. And number one on the good is the short before the movie even starts called Feast. It is a wonderful little animated short story about this dog that is found on the streets as a puppy by this guy. And the guy starts giving the dog like more and more food. Like it starts out with just a tiny French fry, moves on to dog food, which the dog loves, and then the guy starts giving the dog more and more, and all these kind of different foods, and just the story that goes from there. And it's nothing groundbreaking, but the animation is beautiful. The story is so sweet and cute, and in that short span of time, I don't even know how long it is, maybe 5 minutes or something like that, but in that short amount of time it just tugs on your heartstrings so well, and it's really good. So if you go see it in theaters or if you wait until it's on DVD, make sure you watch the short Feast. It is so good. Now, number two good about this movie, Baymax. Baymax, now, if you've seen any of the advertising, it's impossible to not know who this character is, or at least know what he looks like. He's the adorable, gigantic, like fatter and Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man, a balloon robot that, honest to God, I see Baymax being the Groot, but for little kids. Or maybe he'll have just as much of an effect on adults everywhere. Like, he'll just basically be another Groot, but a little bit more huggable and lovable as opposed to being a tree. There's so much to love about the character, including one aspect that I really want to talk about, but it would be a huge spoiler for this movie. So, for those of you that have seen it, that scene, you know what I'm talking about. So good, so well done. In fact, I may add a little thing at the end of the video here for spoilers where I can just kind of ramble about that a bit. But number two, Baymax, just an absolute awesome character that I really loved in this movie. Number two, the brothers Hiro and Tadashi. What I loved most of all about this, because they were really good characters, very well voice acted, and thank God both of them were voice acted by actual Asian people as opposed to like white people voicing Asian people, which would have been really annoying, and but the brotherhood, like the brotherly bond that they share is really well developed, even if they do resort to some exposition from time to time, but it's not overly done and it's not overt. It's just really well done, and the brotherly bond that they share is really well developed, and you really grow to like them both as characters. And then when it's in, it's in part of the plot in the previews if you've seen it, but when the brother Tadashi dies, you feel that, and you feel Hiro's pain throughout the rest of the movie, which results from that. So yeah, it was just really well done. And again, both characters wonderfully done, very well voice acted. Really enjoyed them. Now, number four, the wonderfully diverse characters of this movie. Now, I've heard people refer to this as like the Avengers for kids, which I would modify that slightly and say that, yeah, it's kind of like the Avengers, but more diverse, and not just for kids, just in cartoon form. Because it's a really excellent mishmash of personalities that comes together here. And as opposed to, admittedly, pretty much everyone in the Avengers being white, to I'm pretty sure at least 3/4 of the people, or at least half of the people in there are Asian, if not more. I think a few of the characters were implied to be Asian, but they might not have seemed that way. But anyway, I mean, you have Wasabi, the black guy, who is I loved his character, absolutely loved his character, and his little OCD things with the tools, which you'll see in the movie, is just hilarious. GoGo, really cool character, really enjoyed her, complete badass, really. Honey Lemon, yeah, Honey Lemon. Very sweet character, really enjoyed her, and honestly, one of her powers is probably one of my favorites, the way it's done in this movie. And then Fred, who, I didn't like him at first. I thought he was going to be just like the Jar Jar Binks of the movie, and to an extent, he kind of is, but done in a very good way. Although at first he is admittedly a bit annoying. That character, his personality really comes out as the movie goes on, and at least I came to really appreciate him as a character and what he brought, and well, what he brings to the group in general. And yeah, he's the comic relief overall, the biggest part of it as far as this movie goes. But I feel like it was done in a way that, while annoying at times, was not it didn't completely take me out of the movie. It was enjoyable, and it did admittedly make me laugh. And not going on from there, I mean, I could talk about a bunch of other characters, but I mean, just really about every character in this movie was well done. I really don't have any. My screensaver just went off in the background, didn't it? Yep. All the characters, I felt like they were acted well. They were well portrayed. None of them seemed like just static, characters that didn't really need to be there. In my opinion, they were all really well done, unless they were obviously just like a side character, well, not even a side character, but just a character that belonged in the background. Everyone else had an actual personality and was well developed. Now, moving on from there, number 5, this movie shows science in a positive light, which is a great message that needs to be put out there for kids. And it not only is it shown in just a positive light in general, and not only for boys, but for girls. 2 of the, in my opinion, best characters in this movie are both girls. One of which, actually make that 3. You have GoGo, you have Honey Lemon, and then Hiro and Tadashi's aunt. I really enjoyed all of their characters. The aunt was especially hilarious and a bit ADHD, I think. Pretty sure that's the way she was supposed to be portrayed, but yeah, it was just, I liked all of them. Well, I'm kind of getting away from the science part there with the aunt, but I mean, it shows science in a positive light. It shows that anyone can do it. It spans cultures, it spans races, and it spans the sexes. It's just shown in a positive light, and it shows some of the, idealized things that, science could do. Like, apparently, I just learned this, Baymax is based off of an actual robot, either that is currently in development or has been in development and may just not be in the public light yet. But yeah, the fact that Baymax was inspired by something real world is enough to show you that science is amazing. And I really hope that seeing this movie makes more kids want to go into science fields, especially girls, because there aren't enough that are going to that field because they're influenced to go elsewhere, or like the main culture of the world right now kind of leans toward, well, girls shouldn't be doing science. I really hope it does steer them in that direction, so yeah. Next, number 6 of the good. This movie had a really threatening villain. One of the best things that, at least for the most part, the villain never talks until we find out who it is, and then afterward it does, and we don't see the mask as often, which is unfortunate. But I mean, for the most part, the villain is threatening, very dark and brooding. Not brooding exactly, but foreboding. The power that he uses is, I mean, even though we know what it is that he's using, I mean, just the way it's used when he's in control is just really creepy and honestly really scary. I honestly feared for some of the characters while they were fighting this person. It was really well done. Just a very good villain. And the one thing that if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, one complaint that a lot of people had was that the villain wasn't, very well developed. He wasn't, didn't seem like a huge threat, which I'd kind of leave that open to interpretation. But this is one that, I mean, the stakes are there. There's some real emotional moments when you find out what's going on with the villain. And yeah, it's just, I feel like that this maybe the slight misstep that Guardians took in a way is completely resolved. Maybe I'm looking too much here, but it's resolved in my mind as far as what Disney's doing right and what they're doing wrong. In this movie, they did the villain right, and it was done very well. Now, the final of the final one of the good, number 7, is that this movie is beautiful graphic wise, it is heartfelt, and it's admittedly pretty deep for a kids movie. I mean, the graphics that I've seen it twice so far. I saw it a second time with my wife, and unfortunately, the theater had a weird issue with its projector where the right side would have this weird contrast. So make sure that wherever you go has good camera quality. But the first place I saw it, it looked amazing. Now I haven't seen it in 3D, but just overall, the graphics look beautiful. It looks, I mean, not real necessarily, but I don't know how else to describe it. It just looks amazing. As for it being heartfelt, I mean, this is a movie that, going in, I expected it just to be kind of silly the whole time with, as advertised in the trailers, the death of the brother being the main emotional point. But no, this movie does a really good job of just this overall emotions. It hits joy, sadness, rage, just all done really well, in my opinion. And then the fact that it's deep is that when it hits those emotional moments, it'll vary from person to person, but I know for me, there were some that just watching the screen, I mean, I was having to fight tears, and it just really gets you in the guts sometimes. It was just really well done. I can tell that they put a lot of hard work into this movie. And yeah, it really shows, and it really pays off, in my opinion. Now, moving on from there, the movie does have some issues, so let's get into the bad. Now, number 1 of the bad is that, in a way, this is kind of a good negative to have, if that makes any sense, but the movie's too short. And it feels kind of rushed in order to make up for that shortness. And what I mean is, like, I wanted more from this movie. I wanted it to keep going. I wanted to see more of what was going on. And I think the movie comes out around an hour and a half, something like that. And it kind of falls into that trap of coddling to the kids and being afraid that, being afraid that the kids are going to lose interest, or that it's not going to be able to hold their attention long enough. Which, it can be true for really young kids, but not always. And there are some longer kids movies that I feel like, they do a good job of holding your attention, and this is one of those that I honestly felt like it held my attention for sure, and I'm kind of, squirrel. But yeah, I just feel like it should have been a bit longer, and as far as it being rushed, that actually brings me to number 2 of the bad, and is that there's little character development for the teammates. And all of them have their very distinct personalities. All of them have very interesting personalities, but we don't get to see them interact with each other very much. We don't get to see them interact with Hiro or Tadashi very much. We get that they're Tadashi's best friends, and that they grow this bond with Hiro, but we don't ever really get to see that. Like, there's this entire section where Hiro is getting ready for the science competition or fair or whatever, basically his audition for getting into this big school. And that entire segment is just fast forwarded, and I understand why. It's sort of like almost like a montage thing. But we see these momentary slowdowns where it shows Hiro hanging out with Tadashi's friends, or hanging out with Tadashi. Some, in my mind, could be some very important character development. Getting to see them interact with each other, getting to see them be around each other in general, that we're completely missing out on. And I feel like that's a real shame. Whenever the movie comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, my honest hope is that there is actually some segments that were made for this movie, but they just decide, like, it's in the deleted scenes or something like that, where it just kind of skims over in that fast forward, because I feel like in that span of time, they could have taken 10 minutes, 10 additional minutes at minimum, to really expand on the characters so we can learn more about them, get to know them better, because all of them were really interesting characters that I want to get to know better. And, you know, maybe that's something they're saving for the sequel, which at this point, I'm pretty sure the movie has done astronomically well, and there will no doubt be a sequel. But I don't know, it just kind of bugs me that they might be saving that character development to be presented in the sequel as opposed to giving it to us in this movie, when there was plenty of time that could have been dedicated to that. And, you know, that's just me, though. Overall, I feel like most people aren't going to really notice that, because the characters have wonderful personalities that does come across, and the movie as a whole does come off rather strong. Now, before I give my final score for this movie, my overall thoughts, I do want to give you my wife's thoughts on the movie from when I saw it the second time and she saw it with me. I asked her what she would rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and she actually said an 8 out of 10. And for her to say that, you know, is really big, because I'm much bigger on cartoons than she is, and I'm just going to leave that alone. The monitor went off again. I gotta remember to turn the screensaver off, or whatever's going on back there. But yeah, and then also one of her favorite characters was one of my own, and that is the ant. And her favorite line of the movie, as far as I can tell, came from the ant, and it's when she gets the two brothers out of trouble. I won't say exactly what it is, even though it happens early on, but the line is, "Should I have gotten a book on parenting? Probably," because something happened which isn't completely explained to the boys' parents off camera, not even in the movie. But she's talking about, you know, what she could have done better to raise them, and how she isn't, you know, very knowledgeable as a parent. So it's just like that whole little scene was really funny, and I felt like it showed a very caring, although a little bit maybe not disjointed, but basically very caring but unsure of what to do relationship with him, which I thought was, it was fun, it was funny, I really enjoyed that. Now, as for my overall thoughts on this movie, I loved it. Now, I did mention some of my negatives, admittedly, but overall, I mean, you know, despite those slight negatives, it was just a really well done movie that, while it did kind of cater to the kids a little bit too much at times, I feel like this was just an overall well done movie, one of the most enjoyable animated films that has come out this year by far, and it's definitely something that I think really the whole family can enjoy. It hits some emotional points that adults and kids will appreciate. While I was watching the movie the second time, both times there were several kids around, but the second time, around a point in the end, I'm not going to say what it is because that would be spoilers, but I heard some kids sniffling behind us because they were crying because of what was going on. And I was just like, I was right there with you the first time I saw the kid. Okay, not quite that dramatic, but that being besides the point. Yeah, I just felt like it was an overall really well done movie. It could have been better. It had some missteps, but overall, I highly recommend this film. And as far as a score goes, if I'm going to give it a score, I would say it's a 4 out of 5. Very strong, and it's something that I honestly think unless you don't care for animated movies or like superhero movies, I think it's something that pretty much everyone will enjoy. So yeah, everyone, thank you very much for joining me for this new Papa Kenn reviews. I apologize for the lighting issues of going from really dark to light. Still working on my new little setup here. But thank you all very much for joining me on this. If you've seen the movie, please leave your thoughts below. I would love to hear what you think about the movie, or, you know, your opinions on what I have to say. Am I completely off base in your opinion? You know, everyone has their own opinion, so I'd like to know what you have to say. And, yeah. Also, let me know what you think about Baymax, specifically, because I want a plushie of him. I'm sure it's going to be crazy expensive, so I'll be waiting a while for the prices to go down. But I want a plushie of him. I love Baymax. And I love Groot. I want plushies of both, and I want to hug them on camera. They got a little bit awkward. Anyway, everyone, I will see you next time on the next Papa Kenn Reviews. Now, just in case any of you did actually want to see my little spoiler on this, when I was talking about that scene when I was talking about Baymax, okay, the scene I'm talking about is when they find out who it is behind the kabuki mask, and Hiro finds out that the professor, or the doctor, I can't remember his name, just let Tadashi die. And Hiro takes the like the healthcare chip out and leaves only the kung fu. Oh my god. Everything about that scene was so well done, and it still gives me chills, because, you know, they could have gone the scary, silly route where basically Baymax just, like, you know, he goes evil and starts smashing stuff, but he starts saying silly things like Baymax smash and all that kind of stuff. No. They left Baymax silent. He didn't say a word. His eyes turned red, and he doesn't say a word. He just starts destroying things. And they have one of those terrifying, like, you see the Hulk transformed in the shadows coming at you moments. And it just, like, he doesn't even care. There's nothing going on in his mind, I guess if you can call it that, but he's just destroying everything in his wake and knocking the teammates away, not even caring, not even knowing who they are really at that point. But just everything about that scene, including the way Baymax seemingly feels afterward, is just, oh, just so well done. And honestly, one of the things about this movie that hit me hardest, the fact that I did not expect something like that from a kid's movie at all. And that scene by itself made the whole movie for me. And I can't wait to see it again when it's out on Blu-ray, because I probably won't see it again in theaters, but I cannot wait. Seriously, if you're watching this right now, and you haven't seen the movie, me explaining it doesn't even give it justice. That scene by itself has to be seen, if nothing else, in this movie. So anyway, yeah, spoiler over. Later.